All right, so today we're going to present how mass media use language to inform, persuade, or entertain. My name is Kevin.
And I'm Saeed.
The specific example we chose shows how mass media use language to inform and entertain. So just to talk about mass media a little bit before we get in. Mass media is a media of communication that's designed to reach the mass of people and deliver a message. Amongst many, such as newspapers, TVs, and movies, we chose movies in specific. And movies are recordings of people and objects with cameras. It's also considered a form of art, entertainment, or critique. So JFK once said, "The motion picture today is the greatest medium of expression the world has ever known. It's capable of giving life to all formed ideas, practical and emotional, and its only limitation is human ingenuity." Cinema, or film, as a form of mass media, has become a powerful tool since the day it was introduced to the world. The film industry has grown rapidly for the past years and has brought about a lot of changes in the society. Cinema is perhaps the mainstreams of all art forms and most accessed and most preferred by the general public. It's also a form of art, entertainment, social document, or critique. Film is a reflection of society for both the present and the past, and also its innovations sometimes have to catch up to society, but it also sometimes leads the society and culture too. Today's generation films have handled a lot of controversial topics such as religion, terror attacks, homosexuality, child labor, poverty, which all play a significant role in the plot of the movies. Movies have actually brought to the world an idea about all the above through their stories and concepts.
Alright, so the movie we chose for this to analyze was V for Vendetta. Originally it was a graphic novel, but it has been converted into a movie. And so the movie it's set in Great Britain in the near future. Under the guise of several terrorist acts, a totalitarian government is elected to parliament under Chancellor Adam Sutler to save the country from these terrorists. The only problem, however, is that the people must give up a lot of their freedom in order to be safe. The government eventually becomes cruel, corrupt, and oppressive towards the people. Driven by personal vendetta, a mysterious individual comes to the forefront to take up the cause of freedom. He wears a mask of a Guy Fawkes to cover his face and changes his name to only V. V's mission is to bring back justice to the country. On November 5th, in the process of blowing up his first building, V rescues a young woman, Evie. She was about to get sexually assaulted by the secret police because she was out in the streets violating her curfew. After V acquaints her, V takes over the TV station and broadcasts a message to the country condemning the oppressors in parliament. V invites all people to join him in 1 year's time on Guy Fawkes Night to see him complete what Guy Fawkes couldn't do: blow up parliament. So Guy Fawkes, he was an English soldier during the 16th century. And what he was trying to do, he was a follower of the Catholic Church, and what he was trying to do was to assassinate King James I in order to restore a Catholic monarch to the throne. That's because King James I was known for being oppressive towards the Catholics. So his plan became known as the Gunpowder Plot because it involved blowing up the parliament, using gunpowder, of course. However, it failed and it got him hung to death. What's important to know, however, is that V does not use the Guy Fawkes mask just to have his face, but because he carries the same idea as Guy Fawkes does, which is to rid the people of the oppressive government and blow up the parliament, basically.
So we chose a speech from the very beginning of the movie in which V encounters Evie. And in this speech, he uses a number of literary devices, including alliteration, juxtaposition, allusion, allegory, rhyme, metaphor, caesura, irony, and sarcasm, just to name a few. So we'll just show you the first part of the video.
I can assure you I mean you no harm.
Who are you?
Who? Who is but the form following the function of what, and what I am is a man in a mask.
Well, I can see that.
Of course you can. I'm not questioning your powers of observation. I'm merely remarking upon the paradox of asking a masked man who he is.
Oh, right.
But on this most auspicious of nights, permit me then, in lieu of the more commonplace sobriquet, to suggest the character of this dramatis persona. Voila! In view, a humble vaudevillian veteran, cast vicariously as both victim and villain by the vicissitudes of fate. This visage, no mere veneer of vanity, is a vestige of the vox populi, now vacant, vanished. However, this valorous visitation of a bygone vexation stands vivified, and has vowed to vanquish these venal and virulent vermin, vanguarding vice and vouchsafing the violently vicious and voracious violation of volition. The only verdict is vengeance, a vendetta, held as a votive not in vain, for the value and veracity of such shall one day vindicate the vigilant and the virtuous. Verily, this vichyssoise of verbiage veers most verbose, so let me simply add that it's my very good honor to meet you, and you may call me V.
Are you like a crazy person?
I'm quite sure they will say so.
Okay, so the first encounter with V, when Evie says, "Oh, I can see that you're just a man in a mask," V uses sarcasm, saying, "Of course you can. I'm not questioning your powers of observation." And Evie's just kind of like, "Oh, all right, okay, but anyway, thanks for saving my life." V here, that's when V starts his speech. He says, "But on the most auspicious of nights, permit me then, in lieu of the more commonplace sobriquet, to suggest the character of this dramatis persona." So just to go over the words here quickly, a sobriquet is a name or phrase that describes the character of someone or something, and a dramatis persona is the character or actor in a play or a movie. So he's saying, instead of the commonplace character, let me show you this dramatis persona, and he talks as if he's a part of a play, And the really important thing you should keep in mind about this speech is that V is speaking as if he's in a theater, as if he's part of a play, as if he's an actor of a play, and this whole thing is staged.
He then proceeds to say, voila. So this reminded us of a Shakespeare quote, which goes as follows. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his act being 7 ages. So to V, this is a show, or a dramatic performance, where he gets to show himself off, dust off his own beliefs, and clarify what he thinks is right.
And then he proceeds by saying, "In view, a humble vaudevillian veteran cast vicariously as both victim and villain by the vicissitudes of fate." So first of all, he uses the juxtaposition here. A vaudevillian veteran cast vicariously as both victim and villain by the vicissitudes of fate. And this makes his language more theatrical, and it makes his speech more dramatic. He also mentions fate. And considering the fact that the idea of fate is key in a play, it's what makes a key dramatic. It's quite ironic that he used the word fate here. So in this part, he's basically saying, at a quick glance, I'm just an old retired entertainer in a mask who indirectly ended up as both a victim and a villain by an unwelcome change of fate. So just to go over the words quickly, vaudevillian, a vaudeville is a theatrical genre of variety entertainment. Vicarious is when you're experiencing something by watching or hearing about rather than doing it yourself. Vicissitude is a favorable or unfavorable event that happens by chance, and the way words roll off the tongue in this sentence, it's very special. They're not sharp, they're soft syllables, but they also have such a wonderful gravitas about them that it feels terrific. Vaudevillian veteran, as I said, basically he's saying he's an actor, someone with a history of theatrics. And the latter half, as already pointed out, refers to how he has been both hurt by the actions of others and how he will hurt others as time will come to pass.
Alright, so then he proceeds to say, this visage, no mere veneer of vanity, is a vestige of the vox populi, now vacant, vanished. So just to go over the words real quick, because it's important to understand the words, because the diction, the word choice is very important to the understanding of this speech. So the first word visage is just means a person's face. Veneer is the way of behaving or appearing that gives other people a false idea of your true feelings or situation. Vanity is the quality of people who have too much pride in their own appearance, abilities, achievements, etc. Vestige is the last small part that remains of something that existed before. Vox populi seems hard, but it's just a Latin phrase that just means voice of the people. So basically, he uses a few devices in this part of the speech. So allegory is one of them. So it's a story in which the characters and events are symbols that stand for ideas about human life, or in this case, political and historical situation. So the allegory here has to do with Guy Fawkes. So he says this visage. So he's referring to his mask. It's an allusion to Guy Fawkes, but this allusion goes into this allegory because it's a symbol of what he stands for now, which is the idea of going against the oppressive government. So what he's trying to say is he doesn't want anyone who sees him to be detracted from his original purpose of him wearing a costume. So he's not vain. He doesn't wear this costume just because he feels good doing it or because it adds to his image or anything. He's wearing what he's wearing because it's representative of the people's opinion, or the vox populi, which, according to him and due to the government that's now in power, is not heard or cared about anymore. So we love his gestures at this point in the video because he makes you really imagine how people would have been like loud and rancorous in the past, and now it's like they just pressed the mute button and and then everyone got shut down in this Big Brother-esque dystopian fantasy of his world. So when he says this visage no mere veneer of vanity, it rhymes kind of, so he uses this theatrical language. It just makes it sound better, makes it easier to convey his message across. So what he's trying to say here basically is that this mask is just not a pleasant looking cover to hide what lies beneath. It's the last remaining trace of the voice of the people, which has disappeared and now no longer exists. And so, as we mentioned before, the government the chancellor in power is Adam Sutler, and we can kind of see like a similarity between the names Adam Sutler and Adolf Hitler. So we believe that they did that on purpose because they're trying to create a parallel between Hitler and Sutler, and seeing that they put two historical figures, so Hitler and Guy Fawkes, in like the same plane right now. So it goes back to what we said before, that film is a reflection of society for both the present and the past. So by putting two historical figures of different like ages on the same plane, like on the same part, it shows how history is cyclical, more or less, how it repeats, so that how like even in the past, what happened before, it's happening now again, even though it's set in the near future.
Okay, and V proceeds his speech by saying, however, this valorous visitation of a bygone vexation stands vivified and has vowed to vanquish these venal and virulent vermin guarding vice and vouchsafing the violently vicious and voracious violation of volition. So here, again, just to go over the words quickly, valorous means brave. Visitation is an official visit by an important person specifically to look at or inspect something. One thing you should keep in mind here is when he uses such words like visitation, he doesn't mean it literally. He's using certain words figuratively. That's because he could have used words such as reincarnation or the revisit of Guy Fawkes, but instead, because he's using words that only start with the alphabet V, he's using an alliteration here. So certain words are used in a figurative sense. Vexation is the state of being worried or annoyed. Vow is a solemn promise or assertion. Vanquish is to defeat someone completely. Venal is when you're willing to do dishonest things in return for money. Virulent is when you're full of hate or anger. Vermin is something very bad or unpleasant or offensive people. Vanguarding means leading an action or movement in society, politics, or art. Vice, bad or immoral behavior or habits. Vouchsafing is to give someone something as a promise or a privilege. And lastly, voracious is when you have a huge appetite. So here he's basically saying, however, this courageous arrival of past irritation stands reborn and inspired and has sworn to conquer and crush these bribe-taking, corrupted, poisonous vermin who are at the forefront of promoting evil and greed by allowing the use of violence to remove the free will of people. So when he says valorous visitation of a bygone vexation, he's saying that this is Guy Fawkes coming to visit again. The stands vivified means brought back to life. So Guy Fawkes' image has been brought back to life as a symbol of what he stood for, and vivified is such a wonderful use to use in this sentence. And this is where the emotions really start pouring out. He uses a slightly more aggressive tone, and this is where all the anguish and torment that he has faced, all the empathy he has for the people suffering diligently under an autocratic rule that he wants to do nothing with, spews out in a torrent, a deluge of words that compound on one another. And it makes you truly feel for the horrific nature of the current ruling class. He demolishes them by calling them stupid and disgusting vermin, bad, offensive people who propagate wrongdoing and support the overarching Big Brother type of dictatorial control of people's actions.
So then he then says, the only verdict is vengeance, a vendetta, held as a votive, not in vain, for the value and veracity of such shall one day vindicate the vigilant and the virtuous. So for the words, vendetta means a series of acts done by someone over a long period of time to cause harm to a disliked person or group. Votive is consisting of or expressing a religious vow, wish, or desire. Vain is too proud of your own appearance, abilities, or achievements. And vigilant is alertly watchful, especially to avoid danger. And virtuous means morally good or having or showing virtue. So at this part, he uses caesura. So if you notice in the video you watched before, he just stops suddenly and his tone just gets much lower. He draw at this point in the movie, he draws a V in the wall. That's it's the change from the climax to how it declines in this part. So the caesura, it adds gravity to his tone. So this part is tremendously positive, and in the video he says this part quietly. So the line before this was the crescendo of what he thinks aids the current system, but now he speaks of why this must be done and what its consequences will be and how we can deal with them. So he believes that there's just one path possible, and that is the one of action, of violence, and of agitation against oppressors, where revenge is the one and only motive held as though it were your entire life philosophy. So when he says vendetta is held as a votive. And don't worry, doing this would surely not be in vain. Whatever happens to you, because how strongly you believe in it and how truly you believe in it, will be what sets free everyone else who is of virtuous nature. So the vigilant, seems to represent those people who are willing to stand by and struggle quietly, but with courage to all of the government's oppressive actions. So instead of him saying, I'm going to kill Adam Sutler and his adherents, so V uses euphemism at this part of the play of saying justice will be served. It makes it more dramatic, but it also shows that he's not being selfish, but selfless. He's showing that he's fighting for all the people, not just for his own personal vendetta. Yeah.
And then he ends his speech with, verily this vicious swaz of verbiage veers most verbose, so let me simply add that it's my very good honor to meet you, and you may call me V. So this is where he's just having fun. Just to go over the words quickly, verily means certainly or truly. Vicious swaz, interestingly enough, it just means soup. Verbiage is a speech or writing that contains too many words. Veer is to let out, and verbose is when you're using more words than are needed. So here he's saying, truthfully, the soup of words might have been a little too much. And this is a metaphor showing that V is also aware of how complex his speech is and how convoluted he made everything feel. And it's also very ironic and humorous at the same time. It's ironic because people normally introduce themselves and talk about what they hope to achieve rather than what V did, which is the other way around. It's humorous because he suddenly uses colloquial language, stops being theatrical and dramatic, and he stops the use of alliteration. So instead of using words that start with V, he uses words that people would normally use in a normal conversation. So he's talking about this vicious ways of verbiage, which has gone too long, so he completes the pleasantries to end arguably the most wonderful monologue. So, in conclusion, this speech informs and entertains its audience at the same time. The speech in this movie informs about the oppressive government of V's society and how V plans to overthrow Sutler's dictatorial regime. It mentions the philanthropic and selfless characteristic of his objective and how justice will be served to the people who deserve it. It's also a reflection of the real society today, as V makes references to Guy Fawkes and Adolf Hitler to prove his point. History repeats itself.
And to entertain, V uses a variety of literary devices that help not only to convey his message more effectively, but also to entertain the reader, especially with devices such as irony and sarcasm that play with the spectator's humorous side. So the diction that V uses is also very important. The large amount of words, or the alliteration, words that start with V, albeit confusing, entertains the people who are watching, as it could make it seem like V uses mainly words that start with a V to put on a show. It could also seem like he has a limited vocabulary in the non-V alphabet. However, it is harder, as a matter of fact, to convey the message in a coherent manner using only words that start with a V. Thus, it is very entertaining to watch V speak, as he confidently boasts his eloquence. By giving a speech in a theatrical manner, V is able to entertain the audience in a similar way in which theater entertains its audience. Although both plays and movies have as objectives to entertain, they have different approaches, and by using a theatrical approach in a movie, V uses the best of both worlds in order to maximize entertainment.
So that was our presentation, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.